Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Scale Model Kit Review. Welcome back to another exciting installment of Build the Batmobile by FanHome. Welcome back to Scale Model Kit Review Studio, and welcome back to another fantastic installment of the DeAgostini FanHome Build the Batmobile. Yes, this is the classic car from the 1966 TV series. George Barris, this was a beauty built by him. So I am currently working on pack number 17, and in my pack that I received this month, I only received 5 stages. Yes, just 5. Normally we've been receiving 6 of them, so I'm not going to let that hold me up. I got phases 87 through 91. I saw on social media that other people got 92, so I'll look into that. So without further ado, let's look at the magazine itself. The magazine here is about 13 pages of semi-gloss pages here, and they start off with a basically a episode guide. So we're already on season 2, episode 87. King Tut's Coop, or Coup, and drama at the ball there. Then they get into Great Batman Comics, Rebels in the Streets from 1971. And then we get Batman Year by Year. This is Batman 10, Part 2. And lastly, our kit instructions, step-by-step instructions. These are well illustrated here, and you can see we're going to be doing a lot of things here in this stage. So let's go ahead and look at the parts that came with this pack. 87 received a fender liner, and I believe that's probably the left side. 88 received the other fender liner. 89, this is large. Let me back this up some. And that is the rear portion of the car, main body of the car. 90, this would be the midsection of the car where the driving compartment is. A little bit better there for you. And lastly, 91, some parts here for the midsection of the car. Let's get started. Alright, I am back. So we're looking at Phase 87 here first, and we received the parts for the left wheel arch, and of course some pipes here, and steering housing. We're going to be replacing the steering housing with this also. And just to reiterate what I said earlier, FanHome did tell me that they cut down on the amount of packs sent each month from 6 to 5 due to the 30% increase from the tariffs. And I'll show you what I got from the chat when I chatted with FanHome a little bit ago. So the first thing we're going to do is replace the steering gear housing. That should be really easy to do. And of course I'm going to use some RC grease for that too, to help things along with the gears. But then I'm going to assemble the wheel arch, and then fitting the brake fluid pipes, and installing the wheel arch after the pipes are installed, and then attaching the air filter. Alright, let me get the parts. And here's the parts for 87. Let's get a closer look. AP CM screws. The left front wheel well arch made of plastic. They call this a pipe here. We have a fluid distribution for the brake fluid. And then we have the new gearbox half, and that's the bottom of it there, and that's made of metal. And some brackets for the wheel well arch. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do, replace the cover here for the steering gearbox, and that's this cover that we installed previously. So we need to take that off. We're going to use the same screws to put this down. I'm going to show you, if I see any difference in the two, I'll show you that. Okay, I disassembled the top of that gearbox. Now the only difference I saw is in the middle here where the brass gear comes in contact, and it is lifted up just a little more on the inside of this than it was on the original one. So that's the only difference I saw between these two housings. I'll put my AW grease inside of that and install it. Here we go. And AM screws go back into it. And that's all we do with that. Looks good. Everything seems to turn okay. A little tighter this time. It checks out good. I have it lifted off the mat. You only want to turn it with the steering wheel. Do not try to turn it by moving the tires. Okay, perfect. We want to make sure everything is centered up before we install that steering wheel on the column there. Next we assemble the left wheel arch. We'll install this L bracket on first with 2 AP screws. Go ahead and tighten those down. Get them both started first. Then we'll attach a bracket to that. The bracket is this one right here. And it looks like it goes just like that. You can see how that it looks there, and it's going to attach just like that. And as you can see, 2 AP screws were used for that, and they are tight. You want to make sure on the back side here that it sits flush up against the housing there, and slight overlap on the back side here. Next we're going to install this pipe assembly. It installs on the bottom of the engine next to the oil pan, and they want you to turn the car over to do this. I would recommend you turn the car over on its side only. Never take the car and turn it upside down. You will run the risk of cracking or breaking some parts, so it's best to take the car and turn it on its side for this operation. So that's what I'm going to do here, and install the pipe from there. It's easily seen, and it's going to mount there on the side. There's a mounting hole. You can see it there on the bottom of the pan. And you can see here it's a little bit fiddly, but I got it in place there. You need to run your line, your pipe, underneath the suspension and all the way to the back here. So you can see how that looks there. But remember, I did this with the car laying on its side. Okay. Continuing on with our brake pipes, this is our fluid distributor for the brakes, and it installs here on the bottom, and it has a half moon shape. So you'll find the larger pin on the bottom here that has a half moon shape also, and that's simply going to slot into that. And you may want to put a little super glue on that to secure it down. There it is. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and install 3 brake lines on the fluid distributor. We have one brake line coming from the back of the car, and that's this one here. And you can see that's coming from the back. That is the baby blue line you'll see in the instructions. And then the other two lines coming from the brake assembly on the left wheel. This is the red line. And then lastly, we have the yellow line coming from the other brake on the other side of the car. So we'll have to route that as they show in the instructions. So this is the yellow line. Alright, so I installed the brake lines on the brake distributor, and baby blue one on the bottom, that's coming from our brake system from the rear of the car on the left side there. And this is the left brake, and this is the right brake. Now make sure you route your brake lines underneath the frame and then up on there. Same on the other side with the yellow one here. That's coming from the right brake drum. Make sure you route that under the frame, over the transmission, and then ultimately to the distributor here. Now I did trim these and I painted them to show you where they are mounted on the distributor, bottom, side, and front. Alright, now next thing I have to do is mount this onto the frame. It takes 2 cm screws. I'll be right back. Okay, the 2 cm screws are installed. To mount this down, I used 3-in-1 oil for that, one right there, and going to be hard to see, but it's going to go right in there is the other one. Now we'll go ahead and mount our air cleaner intake, and there's a hole on the front here that this slots into, and there we go. And there we go, the left wheel well fender lining is installed. Looks great. So that completes stage 87. Let's head over and do phase 88. And there you go, that was a lot of fun. Let's look at phase 88. We're going to install the left wheel well arch, and basically the same parts as we see before except for the gearbox half there. And we'll go ahead and install the brackets first, and then we'll install the wheel well arch, and then we're going to install the steering column to that. Okay. After we install the steering column, next we'll install the firewall, and we have to hook up some lines dealing with that. We have a bunch of cabling, and you may have noticed that during this process we have extra cabling that we did not use that needs to be attached, and I'll take you through that. And lots to do here. Very interesting. And that's what it should look like. Let me get the parts, I'll be right back. Here's the parts for phase 88. Let's get a closer look. AP, CM, FM, and SM screws. Much the same here, but on the right side, made of plastic. And our tube. Alright, I assembled the wheel well arch with those brackets. I used 4 AP screws, just like I did in the previous phase, phase 87. So that's ready to be installed on the chassis. Alright, the wheel well arch is installed on the right side now. I put in 2 cm screws, just like I did before. Make sure they're tight. It looks good there. Next, we'll go ahead and install the steering wheel and column. And I'll be right back and I'll show you what I did with that. Next, we're going to take the steering column. We're going to insert that through the dash and over to the gearbox. Now, this attaches to the gearbox on this U-joint here. Now, what I've done in preparation is I went ahead and I drove the screws through the U-joint to get the thread started. So those are the SM screws. And you can see I put both of them in. I got the thread started on that U-joint. So I'll go ahead and take them out, and then it should be easier to install those on the car. Okay, so First thing you want to do is make sure that your wheels are straight before you hook up that U-joint on the steering shaft. Now I'll lift this up a little bit. You can see I do have them installed. Both SM screws on each side installed. It made it really easy having those threads started already, and they're left loose a little bit so we have room for turning, right? So that's how that looks there. Now to make that easier, because it was really hard to get everything to line up, is I went ahead and I took the screw out of the side here of the dash, and that allowed me to move it in closer to get everything to line up. Now I can go ahead and put my screw back in, and we're all set to go. But I think it really helped taking this screw out here first. So I hope that tip helps you out with getting everything lined up on your steering shaft. Looks great. I did have a comment on the last video that I put my lens on a little bit crooked, out of alignment. And yes, I did, but there's no way I can get that out without damaging it, so I'm just going to have to live with it. Alright, so that completes that portion. Now we have a whole bunch of hoses to hook up in the engine compartment. We have a lot going on here. So I'll go ahead and get started on that, and I'll be right back. Alright, so I installed the firewall, and I used 2 FM screws, and just kind of have to line everything up. You can see it's not flush here along this, and they're tight. I made sure none of the hoses and lines are pinched on the bottom on the chassis area, and making sure all my hoses are accessible. There's several hoses on here that will be running and we'll be hooking up here next. As a matter of fact, there's one over here, and we're going to be hooking up our coil wire to the distributor. One of my followers asked when that was going to happen, and it's going to happen here. It's going to hook up to the center portion of the distributor, and of course I'll super glue that in place. I'll trim it and super glue it in place. And then we have a couple other hoses over here. I just put some Tamiya strip of tape to keep that out of the way. We'll be hooking up all of our radiator cooling lines also, and they're on each side of the firewall. Okay, so I'll take you through this step by step. I'll be right back. So you can see here I installed the hose onto this pipe that we installed in the previous phase. It's that pipe that runs back, and if you look, there's the hose right there hooked up to it. Little fiddly, but I got it on there. That's step 1. Continuing with step 1 is that outside radiator line. That's the one that hooked up to that pipe underneath the engine that I just showed you previously. Next we'll hook up the next radiator hose, the inner side here. That's going to run under the brake booster and run right to the side of this pipe on the left side of the engine right there. And then we'll hook up this line coming off the brake booster to the back end of that pipe. And I did trim that just a little bit. So that completes step 2 for this pipe and step 3 for that pipe. Step 4, we're going to hook up this line coming off the top of the brake booster, and it's going to run down to my brake distributor. And you can't quite see it. I did paint it yellow, the tip of it, but right off the top of it, it's going to go right down on that. So we'll have to trim this hose and hook it to that brake distributor that we put the other 3 brake lines onto. And there you go. You can see I painted the tip of it. We'll hook that hose to it. And you can see I ran the line from the brake booster down to the brake distributor. Put a little glue on the hose to keep it out of the way on the side there. So this was step 5, number 4. Now for step 6, number 1, that's these two hoses here, and they mount to the front of the firewall. I did trim them and super glue them. Then we'll take our gray vacuum line coming off the front of the carburetor, wrap it around, and that goes on the front of the brake booster right there, and that's that gray line. That was step 2 for number 6. Now we'll hook up our distributor next. Coming from the coil pack, we run that line to the top of the distributor. Step 6, item 4. Next, there was a free hose that was over here on the right side of the engine. That's this right here. It's going to run up to the fuse box, just like so, right there on the end. For step 7, number 1, we have to hook up the other battery terminal. Now this cable is running from the starter underneath the engine, so that hooks up right there. Alright, starting with step 7, number 2, 3, I went ahead and I took this hose off the radiator, this one here. I ran it around and I pressed it against the metal hose we received in this stage, this one right here. Press it up against it, then I ran it to the front of the engine where the water pump is, and there's a slot, a half D-ring slot that it goes into down there. So that's step 2 and step 3. Step 7, step 4, I next took this radiator hose on the outside and I ran it under, and it hooks up to that pipe on the right side of the engine right there. And there you go. That completes all the pipe installation. We did a lot here, and I hoped what I showed you helped you out in this particular phase of this build. Very meticulous, but just be patient and use some super glue on your pipes and stuff to help hold them in place. So that completes phase 88. Let's head over and get started on phase 89. So for the next phases, I'm going to combine 2 of them, 89 and 90. This is where we received the back body frame and the mid body frame. We're going to combine those together. So I'll go ahead and show you both of those in this section of the video. So 89. Receive the parts for the body frame rear. We're going to go ahead and take off the attachment, the shipping attachment parts there. Those 2 beams will be removed, and that's what that looks like. And then next we'll look at 90, and same thing. We have the body frame middle, and we're going to remove the shipping bars off of it, and we're going to go ahead and combine the back end with the middle part using EM screws for that. That's what that looks like there. So let me get the parts and I'll be right back. And here's the parts for 89. Let's take it out of the box. Fantastic there. And there we go. Give it a quick look over. Very nice. Wow. Back end. Very cool. Wow. Trim looks great on this. Impressive. All right. Let's look at the 90. Number 90 comes in a smaller box. Go ahead and take it out. That looks like there. Go ahead and remove it. Also, remember you did have a bag of screws in here too. Some EM screws. And this is the middle frame. Nothing fancy about that. We'll have to remove those shipping bars on it too. There you go. Let's get started. Okay, we take our part from phase 90, and that's this right here, and make sure all of our shipping bars are removed, which they are. And we want to go ahead and lay it down just like that on the mat. Same with the other one here from phase 89. This is the back end of the Batmobile. Beautiful. Now we simply just want to take the back end of 89, and it's going to go down on top of 89. So it's going to go down on top just like that. And 2 screws on each side will secure that down. And you can see 2 screws on each side. They're EM screws, one right there and one right there. And right there and right there. There you go. Looks good so far. And 2 more screws go underneath. One right here and one over here on the other side. And the same EM screw went in right here, one right there, and one right there. And that completes phases 89 and 90. Looks great. Let's head over and get started on the final phase for this video, phase 91. For phase 91, we received the parts for the kick panel and left and right door locks and springs. So we'll be working on that next. And looks pretty simple to do here. Let's look at the parts. Here's the parts for 91. Here's a close-up of those parts. AP, AM, and ZM screws. The kick panels themselves are made of a very thin photo etch, but very cool. Look at the detail of that. And smooth on one side, and of course we have the ribbing on this side. For the lock mechanisms, the housings themselves are made of plastic and they are marked with an L and an R. We have metal pins and springs. First thing I do in phase 91 is install these kick panels, and these are those photo etch pieces, and the ZM screws go into that. They're chrome and they go in very well. You can see I already did the other side. Looks good. And there you go, fully installed. Let's move on to the door locks. Here's the parts for the door lock, and this is the right side that I'm doing. Both these parts are marked with an R. Now we're going to take this part, this bracket, and we're going to mount it over here on the back side and put 2 screws into it. After we do that, then I'm going to go ahead and take the rod and put the spring on it, just like that, and that will insert into that bracket, and then we'll put the cover on it. 2 AM screws went into that, and we'll take our rod here, we're going to insert it through the hole and make sure that's where it needs to be. Here we go. Make sure my spring is all the way inside. There's a close-up of that. We'll put the cover on it. And 2 AP screws were put in right there. As I actuate the rod from the door jamb, you should see it move with the spring pushing it back. Perfect. Now I'll go ahead and do the other side. I'll be right back. And the other side is completed. Looks great. And as I push that in, it just retracts back. Looks great. I'll be right back. And there you have it, folks. That completes Pack 17. We did a lot here in the engine compartment. Installed the steering wheel. We installed the firewall up front. And we assembled the rear body part along with the mid frame area. I went ahead and did a dry fit just to see how it looks, and wow, it's looking like the Batmobile. Fantastic here. Head over to DeAgostini FanHome, either site. This was actually sold on the FanHome site. I know it was a sellout. And subscribe to it when it becomes available again. I'll put links in the description below, but it's been a real joy to build and really easy to assemble. I've had a lot of fun with this. The detail on the engine compartment is superb. Fantastic. So if you like my content and you really think this video helped you out, please subscribe to my channel and give me a thumbs up. And hey, post your comments below. I love reading your comments and giving you the answers if you have any questions or anything like that. So with that, happy modeling everybody, and take care until Pack 18 arrives. Cheers.